Ella calls down the hallway, but she doesn't get an answer, and so she decides to get up and investigate. In the process, she closes the door to her room and runs back under the covers. Once there, she turns around and finds herself face to face with an older man that's fully dressed in her bed. She goes to scream out, but something seems to keep her from catching her breath. As she gasps for air, the man talked to Ella about her sin of cursing and how little girls shouldn't be talking like that. When she asks the man how he knows her, he tells her that he knows about many things. Just as he was about to tell her something really interesting, she wakes up. As she looks around the room, she tries to make sure that it was all just a dream. But the man appears again and grabs her by the neck. He tells her that the information is about her father, and we see Theo waking up in his own bed. The next morning, we see Theo trying to enjoy the meditation on his phone while his wife Susanna goes for a swim. Once she gets out, he tries to explain to her that someone's calling him, and she tells him that it's some other man. She heads back into the house and Theo tries to get back to his meditation. Later, Theo and Susanna play hide and seek with Ella in the house, and everything seems to be normal for the happy couple. The next day, Theo goes to visit Susanna on set at her job. When they start rolling the cameras, we hear Susanna as clearly filming a sex scene behind the curtain. Theo has no choice but to stand there and wait for her to finish the scene. Susanna wraps up for the day and leaves the set with Theo. They get in the car and head to a remote spot. After they make love in the car, they talk about how she has to go to Europe in a week to film for a movie. Theo mentions that he'll just rent a house in the country and the three of them can spend some time together before she has to work. They book a house in the countryside of Wales and the family goes to embark on their vacation. After they look around the house, the family gets ready for bed, and Ella sits on her bed while she makes shadow puppets on the wall. Suddenly, a shadow appears next to hers, but it disappears as Theo comes in to tuck her in. Later, he goes to talk to Susanna about calling the owner, Stetler, to have the thermostat fixed. He heads downstairs to lock up for the night. Once downstairs, Theo comes across an extra part of the house that he didn't notice before. As he checks it out, he finds a picture that doesn't make any sense to him, but he brushes it off like it's nothing. When he goes back upstairs, he finds that Susanna had fallen asleep, and we see that he was actually gone for almost 4 hours. When he wakes up in the morning, he finds a note that explains how Susanna and Ella left to go for a walk. While Theo sits down to go over writing his journal, we see Ella walking along a large tree branch. Susanna tries to get her to calm down. When Ella asks her why people hate Theo so much, Susanna explains how Theo's first wife had drowned in the tub. She tells her that he was found innocent, but not everyone believed that. Before the girls get back, Theo gets frustrated with his writing exercise and he goes for a drive into town. Once there, he gets into a small shop and gathers supplies for the house. While he's checking out, the shopkeeper asks if anything has happened at the house yet. A curious Theo asks about the history of the house but doesn't get much information. However, the shopkeeper gives him an angle compass and tells him to check the right angles in the house. As he brings the supplies inside, it becomes clear that Ella knows about his past. He tries to confront Susanna about telling Ella without him. At dinner, things seem to be a little intense, but Ella shows Theo that nothing has changed between the two of them. That night, Susanna goes to take a bath, and Theo takes his chance to snoop through all her devices. After deciding that nothing suspicious was going on with her, Theo apologizes to her when she gets out of the bathtub. Later, Theo can't seem to stay asleep, and he goes into the other room to meditate and write in his journal again. When he opens the journal to the last page, he finds that someone else has written into it. When Theo looks back, he thinks he spots something in his reflection. But a sound draws his attention to another room he hasn't checked yet. A staircase leads to at least 2 stories down, and Theo decides to check it out. When he gets to the bottom, he walks down the hallway until he comes to someone standing at the end. When he finally calls out, the being walks around the corner and Theo finds Polaroids of his family sleeping. When he spots a door off to the side, he finds Ella's lifeless body lying there. He does his best to bring her back. He tries to convince himself that it's all a dream as he takes a broken bottle to his wrist and throat. Finally, he wakes up and Susanna is telling him about a bad dream that she had. He takes her to the room he's been writing in and he tries to explain the journey his dream took him through. Susanna tries to explain that it was all a dream, but neither of them actually likes being there. So they pack up their things and get ready to go to a hotel. Theo watches from inside as Susanna and Ella play outside. But when he texts her, a phone vibrates inside. He realizes that Susanna has another phone. He goes to look in his journal where the last page tells him that they should have left, but now it's too late. When he goes out to talk to Susanna, they send Ella inside. He confronts her about the phones and she tells him that there is another guy. Without yelling, he simply tells her that she has to go to the village. She even tells him that it would be better if he yelled like a normal person. Sure enough, Susanna jumped in the car and takes off for the village. That afternoon, Theo tries to get lunch ready for Ella, but something seems to be on each of their nerves. Ella even mentions that the house is causing her to have bad moods. When Theo holds her to comfort her, he notices that some water that's spilled is being soaked up in the house. He tries to get the compass that the shopkeeper gave him and notices that the wall isn't sitting at 90 degrees angle. When he and Ella do a little more questioning, he realizes that the main room is actually bigger on the inside than it is from the outside. He sends Ella inside to get her coat, but on her way back outside, she seems to just disappear. As Theo continues to search for Ella, we see that she's in a dark version of the hallway. Theo finds out that the house is playing some sort of trick on him. He goes downstairs to his writing room and finds out that the third door from his dream is back. As Ella ventures through the house's underbelly, she comes across a woman dead in the bathtub. But when she gets closer, the hand reaches out. She spins around and runs into the creepy man from the dream in the beginning. Theo continues to try every door in the hallway, but each door seems to send him to a different reality. Eventually, he finds the one that leads him to Ella, and he holds her very tight. When he tries to call Susanna, he gets sent straight to voicemail. He promises Ella that they're not going to be out of each other's sight ever again. He comes up with a plan and he gets the phone number from the shop back in town. When he calls the shopkeeper, he starts to get a little more information on what's going on. The more the shopkeeper talks, pictures show up on the wall and Stutler can be heard on the phone too. Theo goes to leave with Ella and they end up spotting a specter that looks like Theo back in the house. The more the two travel down the road, they realize that they somehow made a complete circle back to the house. Ella cries about the fact that she doesn't want to go back inside the house. But Theo explains that they'll freeze if they stay outside. Once inside, Theo tucks Ella in and explains how much he loves her and that things are difficult now with her mother. Finally, the two of them pass out in the bed. However, a camera flash wakes up Theo as the bathwater starts to run. He goes down memory lane where the house throws nightmare after nightmare at him. Theo runs through the house to try to get back to Ella, but the house redirects them in every which way back to her. It even throws him back to an earlier time when he initially went into town. He was the one that wrote he should have left in the journal. The house sends him back to when they first arrived at the house. When Theo gets a call from Stutler, it becomes clear that he's not getting out of the house. But Theo still won't give up on getting to Ella. When he comes face to face with Stutler, he finds out that Ella is with him already. Stutler tries to tease him with the possibility of staying with her forever at the house. This is when Theo grabs Stutler's cane and starts beating him with it. After being hit a few more times, Stutler reveals that he's actually Theo, and that he swears that Theo is actually the one that's keeping Ella there. As Theo sits down to give up, Stutler tells him that he already knows what he has to do. Suddenly, Stutler disappears and Ella shows up behind him. When Ella asks him if it's time to go home, Theo tells her that it's time for her and Susanna, but not Theo. Sure enough, Susanna shows up the next morning and Theo carries Ella into the car and says goodbye. Susanna tries to talk him into coming with them, but Theo assures her that he'd only end up back at the house. He confesses that he let his first wife drown and watched her die. He goes to explain that he hated her for so long and that he should have left. As the shopkeeper narrates about how the right people find the house goes up for rent online again and the credits roll. Thanks for watching till the end. We hope it was worth your time. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel for more entertaining movies. Stick around and enjoy our other recaps on the screen. See you on the next one.